Welcome, welcome. Jamie Hernandez here, founder of Breakthrough Yoga Coaching Method, helping you bridge a gap between your spiritual practice and your business. So I'm sitting here in the beautiful sun just to receive that warmth as it's starting to get cold in our area. So my first question to you is, how do you feel, or how do you feel when people don't want to buy your service? And why do we sometimes feel bad when people don't buy our service? Okay, so let me know in the comments. Number one, how do you feel about when people don't want to buy your service, right? So most of our clients are coaches, they're in the transformational space or in the healing space, they're intuitives, they're sensitives, they work with other people to transform and transform their lives. So how do you feel when people don't buy your stuff? So just let me know in the comments. And also, what do you sell? Because one of the things I think a lot of people in our industry who are certified as coaches, certified as yoga teachers, certified as massage therapists, certified in maybe, a psychotherapy, certified in many different modalities, often we think we sell our title. We think we sell our certification. So what do you sell? So let me know in the comments, just first thing that comes to mind, what it is that you sell, okay? And because today what we're talking about is the power of knowing what you sell. The power of knowing what you sell. Okay, so we're going to get into how do we get, because one of the things that we do when we work with our clients is we start to understand that you are the expert and you have a synergy of experience. And that experience, yes, has your certifications, has your qigong, has your kung fu, has your writing skills, has your, a whole kind of professional training. It also has an experience of your own personal life experience, right? So we've all gone through our life experience, and our client experience, so the people that we work with, yeah? And so one of the things that we do is we take all of that and we help our clients distill and synergize what it is they actually do. And we help them answer the question. And so here's the question that's so important, I think, for so many of us in this field who kind of just think you're your title, is what is the life-altering transformation that you offer? Now, it's one of those things where you don't panic if all of a sudden you don't know right now, right? It's it's a process of really discovering and distilling down from what I call that triangle of three: your professional experience, your personal experience, and your client experience, what your life-altering transformation is. And guess what? You don't have to look out there or do some PDF niche avatar thingamajiggy. You actually just have to really observe your own self. So let me take you through the process so that you can really understand what you sell at your core. And when you understand what you sell at your core, it's not selling anymore. It's a place of service. It's a place of deeply knowing what it truly means to our client if they were to collaborate with us. And that's what it is. It's a collaboration. So it's an offering of your service, and those who are willing and ready and those who resonate with what it is that you do, there's going to be a magical synergy, right? And that's what I want you guys to find, is what is that magical synergy? Who are your dreamiest clients? So that when you get together, the magic just happens, and all of a sudden you're not trying to sell something. You're really understanding and bringing them through their life, your life-altering transformation that you offer them. Okay, and how do we do that? How do we figure that out? So if you're here for a live, hashtag live, and I promise I'm going to answer all your questions. I don't always see the comments in real time. I don't know why Facebook does that. And I will also come back. If you're here for the replay, hashtag replay, I will come back. So the question of figuring out what you sell at your core, right, is to really understand, if I understand what I sell at my core, when I'm speaking about it, which is basically what I teach people marketing is simply talking about your experience and sharing your experience. What happens is that we understand what it's going to cost our clients. We're going to, so for example, some of our clients work with binge eaters. Some of our clients work with people with ADHD who are not necessarily able to function in their regular day-to-day life within the way that they want. Some people, in our clients, they work with, people in the military who have PTSD. Some people work with chronic anxiety, chronic depression. Some people work with, overworked, burnt out men who are successful but yet feel empty inside. There are many, and to get to that kind of specificity, again, it's not searching outside for some niche. It's actually what we can discover in our own experience. So let me take you for the first thing. The first thing that you do if you were to work with me is to understand your zone of genius, right? Your zone of genius is what you love. And that's a combination. Again, it's a combination of a couple of things, usually 3 things, right? So it's a combination of what your zone of genius is what you love. Hey, Roma, right? It is something that when you're doing it, you're in the flow. Right, it's this natural thing that almost channels through you. You're almost compelled. It's like when you go outside and like especially coaches or teachers, you want to teach and coach everybody. Anybody do that, right? It's this natural thing that it comes so naturally, and it's so joyful, and you almost get channeled as you're doing it. So your zone of genius it looks like that. It feels like flow, and guess what? It is the potential of getting paid. So either you're getting paid for it now, or you have the potential of getting paid for it. So that's your zone of genius. So again, it's a process. So to discover your zone of genius in its unique kind of triangular form, in your unique kind of 3, it's a process. And so here's a process. So if you want to discover what your zone of genius is, you need to prioritize it. So it's so funny. People come to me and they want to kind of sell their services, and so basically we start to teach them, like, okay, so one of the things we do is we start to distill your expertise, and then we discover who your dreamiest clients is, and then we discover, like, okay, so what is an 8-week or 12-week program that can collapse time so that we can move these people through that life-altering transformation that you can bring them through. And the funny thing is, people will start there. They're like, oh my God, okay, what's my program? Oh, okay. And then they hurt their head trying to figure it out. And then they start to freak out. And then all of a sudden, false identities start to come in. And they're like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. And the funny thing is, I'll ask them, and because we figure out what their zone of genius is, when are you doing that zone of genius? So for some people it's movement, for some people it's speaking, for some people it's dance, for some people it's writing. Again, it's a combination of 3 things. And so for one of my clients, he was saying, oh, the thing that I absolutely love every time I travel is I love to go for a long walk and write. Like, that's my happy place. That's why I'm always doing that, and that's where all my ideas flow out, right? And so I'm like, okay, yeah, great. So when are you doing that? I'm not, right? So number one, you got to prioritize your zone of genius. And so, basically the basic formula for that week when we were coaching together, I'm like, okay, so find your essence space. Some people are morning people, some people are night people, some people are midday. And he's like, okay, I'm a morning person. I'm like, okay, great. First thing in the morning, guess what you're going to do? You're going to go for a walk, and you're going to write. You're going to sit in that favorite cafe that you love and you're going to write, right? And, you know, again, it's like, oh, right? So that's what he did. So a week later, right? Because, you know, the week before he was like, oh my God, okay, this program, I don't know. And I'm not sure about this. And then like all of this freak out was starting to happen. So the first thing we did is, okay, we gotta bring you back into your zone of genius, get you out of that survival mode and move you back into flow, back into in touch with your soul. That's the first thing. So that's what we did. And then we came back, and then all of a sudden the next week he had all of these ideas, all of these ideas that were flowing through, right? So your zone of genius, if you want to start to understand what you sell at your core, you must live and embody in your zone of genius, right? And then the second thing we start to understand and we start to deep dive is, okay, so you have a triangle of three: your professional experience, your life experience, and your client experience. In those experiences, what do you love? We figure that out. And who naturally becomes attracted to you? So, you know, when you're working as a teacher, when you're working as a yoga teacher, when you're working, you know, doing what you're doing, who naturally comes and sees you, and who are you naturally drawn to? So for this client, he's like, well, I really like the people that really I'm drawn to are these men that are, you know, in my circle that are highly successful, but super exhausted. And almost like they'll do their week, and almost at the end of the week, they need something to kind of just like numb out, to kind of feel something, but actually not feel something, you know. And those are the people that they tend to come to me. They're like, there's something going on. I know there's a change that I need in my life, but I just don't know what it is. And I think that you could help me, right? So there's somebody that naturally, and there's certain types of clients that naturally get drawn to you, because just by being in your zone of genius, you start to transmit. So I used to teach, I still teach yoga. And so who are the clients that would always come to me? And we were just doing like a meditation yoga class. They'd come to me and they ask me like, I'm super overwhelmed and anxious. And also, I don't know how to do my business. It's just like, it's just what happens, okay? It's not like I was even marketing that or putting that out there. That's just a thing that would come to me, right? So I started to realize, first of all, I love marketing. I love teaching people about sales. I love teaching people about how to make money. And I also love, moving people out of that survival mode into their soul, right? So that was a natural kind of combination that happened for me, and I resisted it. And this is a funny thing, guys. You're going to resist it for the longest time. And sometimes that combination, we're missing a part. Sometimes we just, again, if we just base it on the title, we think, oh, okay, I'm just going to teach yoga, or I'm just going to be a life coach, or I'm just going to teach people how to balance their life. And we don't actually realize, like, I love marketing, money, and business. My client loves writing and creative writing. He loves sort of like working with that masculine energy and moving them into that feminine energy. He loves movement and flow. Do you see? So there is your life is offering you clues from what the trainings you're taking, from the natural magnetism that is coming towards you, and your natural personal experience. You know, I've dealt with, major anxiety in my life. So of course, it's no wonder people naturally say, hey, I'm really struggling here. Can you help me? I feel like you can help me. And it's not even like I even said anything about, business or marketing or anxiety. Okay. So I want you, so let me know in the comments if there are always people asking you certain questions or moving towards you for something. Is there always something that you are just doing that you're in the zone? Is there always trainings that you're always taking, right? Are there interests that for you, it's like, oh, I love this. This is just like, I'm in the flow. So for my client, it's like that creative writing process and learning about like sort of the hero's journey, right? There is something there. Okay, and if you were to work with me, we'd go through a whole process and discovering. And I'm just trying to give you some clues so that you're not like most of my clients. They're just like, I actually, they have so many certifications. They're like, I actually don't know what I sell. I have so many friends in the field, and my clients who are just like, I actually I can't put it in words, right? So here's a little bit of a structure to help you out. Hopefully it's helpful, okay? So then once we start to understand our zone of genius, once we also start to understand, who is our dreamiest clients, who are the people that we're naturally magnetized towards us, and we start to prioritize it, what we do is we start to deep dive into what are the pains of your dreamiest clients. What are the deep pains? So again, sometimes these questions feel very superficial, but we start to deep dive. What do they think on a daily basis in their day-to-day life? What do they feel? And what are they doing? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And what are they doing? Right? When they buy groceries, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What they're doing? When they're in relationships, when they're walking into the store, what are they thinking, feeling, or doing? When they're in day-to-day situations, and we have a whole series of questions that helps you really see, like, who is this person? Because everyone lives a life, and we all do kind of these mundane things, like go to work, go to the bank, go to the grocery stores, go to see our family, have relationships. So what your clients have something that they're constantly thinking about, they're constantly doing, and they're constantly feeling that is painful. And sometimes, because it's such an unconscious internal process, when we start to discover the deepest pain and we start to speak about it, some people all of a sudden in our marketing recognize, oh my God, that's me. How do they know that's me? And it's not even because they even know that's them, right? But when we start to speak about it, and this is what I teach you guys, is when we start to speak about it in a way, from a perspective. So marketing for me is sharing your experience, right? And when we can share our experience from what my teacher would always say, not showing people, but telling people. So showing would be like, I work with exhausted, burnt out men to help them move through and find their purpose, without, something like that. Versus, I was just working with a client, and what he told me was every Saturday he kind of he pretty much takes the whole weekend to kind of relax through drugs and alcohol, right? That's what he does. And what we start to realize as we start to work toward together is that there's a physical pain in the body, and there's a deeper emotional feeling of just feeling exhausted, just feeling tired. And what we just started to discover about his clients through his own process, and what he just started to discover about his own process, is that his clients are doing the thing outwardly that is successful. They have the money, they have the car, they have the job, they have the success. They're sort of in that masculine, leadership role. And yet, on the inside, they just feel numb. They feel exhausted. And they don't necessarily have a safe place to actually express this feeling, right? So I just want you to notice the difference between that story, which is facts, it's simply a sharing of an experience, and I help, and I am a certified life coach that helps burnt out men with anxiety and depression. Do you see the difference? So when we start to deep dive into the pain of your clients and start to really undercover what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing, we also start to discover what is it that they truly want. And so we want to start to speak to our clients with a story of what they're going through, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing on a deep level that lets them know, I see you, I hear you, and I am experiencing this myself, and I'm also experiencing this with my clients. Let me tell you this story. Because what happens with stories is that people can, oh, that's me. And so you become this kind of insider mirror to their internal world that they may not even be clear about. And they may not even be clear about what it is they actually want. So for one of my clients, it's like their clients, they've been driving so hard and pushing so hard for this outwardly success that they actually are not even clear like what they want. All they know is, I need to feel something, right? I don't know what that is. And I keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and thriving and striving. And I can't seem to get to where that is, right? So it's that kind of almost ability to receive their power and their genius and their, their all of their beautiful hard work from not only that masculine energy, but from that feminine energy, right? So if you were to work with me, that's the deep dive that it takes to really starting to understand what you sell at your core. Because then when you start to speak about it, when you start to market yourself, when you start to put yourself out there, when you start to allow yourself to share that experience, you understand the life-altering transformation that you offer. You understand also what it costs your client. So imagine 10 years from now, this client that I'm talking about, what would happen if he keeps on going on the same way, working really hard and kind of like numbing out on the weekends with drugs. Like, where is he going to be in 10 years? And then the beautiful thing is, so with my client, the beautiful thing is he basically started changing his trajectory, and they started working together. So instead of waking up and doing doing his natural routine, his client's natural routine of kind of just numbing out, they started practicing together, right? Yoga and different types of processes. And guess what? Just that 2-degree shift of just changing that one thing, where do you think this person's going to be in 10 years if he continues on that path? Okay, so I want you to take that in, because then you're going to start to be selling at your deepest core level and really starting to understand what the bliss is and what it's going to cost them, and what what the pain is and what it's going to cost them if they continue on that trajectory of pain, or what the bliss is, and if they just shift towards getting clarity on what they actually want in their life and moving through your particular process, which is unique to you. This is the interesting thing. Even if I have a life coaching, certification, and you have a life coaching certification, my personal, professional, and client experience is going to be unique from yours, right? So that's our differentiator. Okay, so I want you to hear this, because so many people get lost in this and they have kind of like no clue what they actually sell. Okay. And then when you start to understand what it's going to cost your clients, right? And where they can be and see their highest potential. Understand what their worst case scenario is. Understand their current reality. And understand what their highest potential is. And we can show them that, right? We can show them that. And if they want to walk on that journey with you, then you simply take them on that path. And so then it just becomes a choice. So selling and understanding what you're selling is really speaking through experience and sharing through experience, right? And allowing the people who are ready and willing, and the people who are needing what it is that you offer, to move towards you, by you allowing yourself to move towards them, because you start to create that certainty of understanding, who do I really work with? Who are the people I know that I can deeply impact based on my triangle of three? And how can I bring myself to finding that? Again, prioritizing your zone of genius. So if you were to work with me, we start to figure that out. What is that, right? What do you love? What keeps you in the flow, and what makes you money, or what's the potential of making you money? And sometimes it's like, you make a little bit of money in writing, you make a little bit of money in movement, you make a little bit of money in public speaking. But sometimes we can start to monetize that in a much more effective, scalable way when we combine those, that triangle of three, right? This very powerful triangle of three that is unique to you, that is your differentiator. Okay, let me know in the comments if this is making sense. Okay, because this is like probably one of the most common questions I get. It's like, I actually I don't know. I don't know what I sell. And then when they finally figure it out, so here's the interesting thing. When we start to figure it out, and when we start to figure out our dreamiest clients, we even start to figure out, okay, what is it? So if I'm going to create this program, so one of the things that we do is we start to figure out, okay, so what is the first thing they need, right? This is where we start to get tripped up, right? And in our coaching sessions, often what happens is I'll ask a series of questions, and just to really figure out, like, what is point A, what is point B, what is point C, D, what are each week, what do we have to do? There's a flow, right? And then when we start to recognize the reality of, like, oh my gosh, now I actually have to speak to people about this thing that I'm creating, right? This is this is what will happen often. Number one, we always work through the body. So it's this embodied experience, right? Where we start to, in our program, we start to help you see the deeper wounds that are imprinted in your body, your mind, and your energy. Number two, we start to learn how to process emotion. Number three, we start to gain clarity and clear the mind. And number four, we start to, master our energy. This is the beginning weeks. And so often what happens, and then the fifth week, we start to create that program, right? And in the sixth and seventh week, we discover and we start to draw people towards us, and we start to put our offer out there when we're ready. But the funny thing is, as soon as we get to kind of week 5, and it's like, oh, all this clarity, oh, my dreamiest client, oh, we get so close to what we want. Guess what's going to happen? The huge amount of resistance, all your wounds, all of your gremlins, all your boogeymans, everything that has been imprinted in you when you were younger, all start to emerge, because right on the other side of all of that major resistance is what you want. And the reason why it starts to emerge is because we are giving it space. So when we're creating what we're creating, and when we start to understand what we truly sell, and then when we actually go sell it, we have to start to understand that there's going to be creative tension, right? On a spiritual side, there's going to be all of this kind of tension and this contraction and this resistance to moving towards what you want. And guess what? That's great, because that's a sign that that part of you is ready to emerge. That part of you is able to shepherd that part, so that both your leader and both that part that has been holding you back can actually move forward together. Okay, let me know if this is making sense. And so as you move forward together, here's where you want to start to stay in the creative tension of trusting the clarity that you've gained from your zone of genius, from your triangle of three, from your dreamiest clients, from really deep understanding of their pain and their bliss, from starting to understand what is the journey I need to bring them through. And guess what? I'm always helping you draw it out of your own personal life experience. So this journey that I'm asking you to create is something that you've already created. And so another step is just mind your own data, right? So after we kind of work with that part in us that loves, that not loves, but the part in us that tends to kind of shift back into that freak out, shift back into survival, shift back into that place where it's all of this resistance, we start to continue to allow ourselves to stay with the clarity that we've gained and stay in the creative tension. And that means, okay, so now I'm clear on what's my zone of genius and how to get myself there. So I keep myself there and I prioritize it. Now I start to understand, the triangle of three and where my zone of genius lies, and how that all kind of comes together, and how it's actually, I've naturally been doing it in my life and for other people and in my professional training. And then I start to discover who my dreamiest clients are and deep dive into their pain and their bliss. And then as you get clear, often what happens, okay, because we start to open this channel of creativity, because when you leverage and when you prioritize your zone of genius, guess what happens? It creates a flow, it creates space, because creativity requires space. But guess what? Sometimes this channel now is open, and then we make the mistake of putting creativity back into creativity. Instead of putting creativity back into the creative tension of creating from the data that you've gathered. So that's another step. It's to mind your own data. Mind your own experience. And if you were to work with me, we'd start to document those things. Because when you're creating something, there's the creative part, right? Where all the ideas flow, right? But then we actually have to put it into step-by-step processes. And then we actually have to practice implementing it. So it's kind of like this triangle of creativity, putting it down on paper, and then implementing it. Creativity, putting it down on paper, and then implementing, and then starting to see how that process is, and that 8-week process is unfolding, and trusting when you start to see, and this is what I teach all our clients, what's working, right? So for all my clients, first thing we do, if you were to get on a sales call with me, is we'd start to look at what do you want, first of all, right? What is blocking you? And we start to see where that's imprinted in the body, mind, and energy, because that's the base of everything you do. Whether you want to have a better relationship, a better business, more money, more health, more connection, right? So I help you find what's your first step, right? And then what's the second step? What's the third step? And again, from the experience that you already have. So we just draw it out. And sometimes what happens is, instead of staying in the creative tension of seeing those kind of first few points that I spoke about, we jump to another thing. And so this is what my clients will do. It's like, I have another idea. Actually, I don't want to work with those exhausted, burnt out people. Actually, I kind of had this other idea of doing this. And that's great, okay? Because ideas are endless. But where you actually want to funnel that energy is, okay, if you have endless amount of infinite ideas, then put that back into the clarity, put it back into your dreamiest clients, put it back into the work that you're developing, put it back into your own professional experience, your own personal experience, your own client experience. Do you see? So it starts to create this kind of synergistic momentum, right? And the more we kind of stay there, the more everything becomes more and more clear. And then we start to become a master of our own work, because we're mining our own data, we're learning ourselves. Okay, so let me know in the comments if this makes sense to you. Okay, so let's recap, okay? This is called understanding and knowing the power of what you sell, okay? And one, if you were to work with me, we figure out what's your zone of genius. The other thing I didn't mention is as we start to understand your zone of genius, we start to continue to allocate our energy there, but we also start to delete things that are draining you and things that you're good at, but they're also draining you. Okay? So that's another important part of this step, right? Because when you are in creative tension, we need the tension to go towards the clarity. We don't need the tension to go towards survival or things that you feel like you should be doing or things that you actually don't like, because it's not a mastery of your energy. Okay? So I talk a lot about that, but I just want to mention that. Number two, we start to prioritize, and that's what we talk about, prioritize your zone of genius. So just like my client, I'm like, okay, that thing that you love, like do that the first thing. And guess what happens? All of this creativity, all of this creative space starts to open up. Okay? And then what we do, if you were to work with me, is we start to deep dive. Because then what starts to happen is these ideas flow out and you start to really start to speak about, like, oh yeah, who do I naturally love working with? Who are I naturally attracted to? What is the thing that I've always been doing anyway, right? That just comes so easily to me that I'm in the flow, right? So it's like sometimes because something comes so easily, we discount the fact that we can actually monetize writing, movement, healing, right? And so what we do is we start to really understand how to deep dive into the pain of your clients and into, so once we understand our dreamiest clients, and into what the bliss, what they want, right? And then the way I teach marketing is to start to speak from that place. So again, what my coach would always say is show, not tell, right? So we show people the experience so that they can recognize themselves, so you can become a mirror and they can recognize themselves in what you're saying, instead of just, I don't know if I am this box, that box, or that box, right? Like it's kind of like me saying, what is your niche, right? It's too broad. It's too, your intellect is like searching for something fancy. And this way is really drawing from your own personal experience, your own unique personal experience, okay? And then once we gain the clarity of our zone of genius, we stay there. Once we gain the clarity of who our dreamiest clients are, we stay there. Once we start to understand the pain of bliss, we stay there. Once we start to develop a processes of like, what is the journey we need to take these people through, we stay there. And then we put the creative energy back into that tension of figuring it out. I was just on a call with my client the other day, and I'll say his name because he said he was okay. One of our clients, Joe, who I've been actually referencing about his journey and his clients with men who are exhausted and have that kind of place where they're utilizing the power of their masculine energy, but they're not necessarily have ever received that feminine. So that's Joe's kind of magic when he works with people. He's able to kind of offer that masculinity to what they need, but give them that thing that they've never really received, and understand, and start to really let them understand and start to thaw them out from their numbing with this kind of yin yang kind of approach. And that's in my words. I'm sure he's much more eloquent in the way he's going to talk about his work. So once we get clear, then we can continue to put our energy back in that creative tension. Because, this is what I was about to say. The preparation creates readiness. Okay, so when you're about to now sell your thing, this is what this is what we'll do. Our kind of tendency will do. A lot of resistance will start to come up. We'll think of everything, all of the feelings we don't want to feel. We're gonna kind of maybe put our energy into more creativity, thinking that there's more ideas and more things to do, and we try to do this thing where I'm going to do this to get to that, instead of just going straight to where you want to go. And so it's sort of like this fragmented way of using the energy, because we're trying to slow down the path to the North Star, the path to where we actually want to go. Okay? And I also teach our clients, right, now that we really truly understand what it costs your clients, now let's package and position this. You are the expert, so we start to learn how to take ownership for that, right? And we also price it at a premium, right? So premium is like 3K, 4K, 5K, 10K, whatever it is for that package. Because there is something to the formula of having a condensed, collapsed amount of time where you very specifically distill your zone of genius, distill your expertise, distill your client's journey from where they need to be and where they're going, from understanding their pain to moving them towards their bliss. That formula of having something crystal clear, having it in a condensed amount of time, having it be a commitment financially, energetically, emotionally, creates change. Because I read this, I heard on a podcast the other day, the first 20 hours of what you learn are the most impactful, and the quicker you can implement, the faster the outcome will arise. So in this kind of model that I teach and that I also bring my clients through, what happens is, in that structure, in that container, what happens is your survival mechanism is going to be triggered, okay, because you're investing, a large sum of money into your dream, right? And this is business, guys, right? When anybody who opens up a business, there's going to be investment, right? There is going to be profit and loss. So we have to understand that on just a kind of fundamental business level. But that also triggers the survival mode. And what's important, and what I teach our clients, is how do we work with that survival mode, where we give a survival mode what it needs, but we continue to transfer that energy into what the soul wants. So that container creates that kind of mechanism, and then actually it teaches you how to move through survival instead of staying stuck there. Okay, so it's very intentional. The collapse amount of time is that thing where I was talking about, where it's like the first 20 hours of what you of your learning are the most impactful and most transformative, and create the fastest and quickest outcome and fastest growth when you implement it right away. So imagine you're in this 8-week program or this 12-week program, and you understand that's your time frame. And guess what? When we show up on a coaching call, me and my client are both like, we're not going to F around. We paid a lot of money to be here. They paid me a lot of money to be here. But we're also going to get to work. We're going to do the deep work that requires to move you towards your truth. And we're going to also apply the strategy that is going to move you to the most profitable step in your business, not only for your bank account, but also for your soul. Because guess what? When you do your life's work, then all of a sudden you start to feel more fulfilled. You start to feel more peaceful. You start to feel the joy, the excitement, the fear, all of it. And that, is going to pay you back, lifetimes. You can have the money in the bank. That's one thing. But to actually feel, we settle the soul, right, by accessing what the survival needs are. And getting clear on what the soul needs. And then we actually put it into the 3D world of, okay, how do I actually make this a real deal business so that I can actually nourish myself, nourish my soul, and everyone benefits, right? Because, oh, hey, okay. The thing paused, so who knows? I don't know if I was still videotaping or not. So, let me know if these steps make sense. Find your zone of genius. Start to prioritize your zone of genius. Deep dive on the pain and bliss of your dreamiest clients. Create, stay in the creative tension, right? Understand, what it is to truly market to your people in a way that magnetizes them towards you, and you no longer feel like a sellout because you're simply sharing your experience. I was jumping a little bit all over the place. I think there are a lot of details that I mentioned here, and I want to know what resonated with you the most. And that's a funny thing. It's like, sometimes I get on these things and I kind of make my notes, and sort of like this flow starts coming out of me. And so, what is it for you, right? The question I want to ask is, what is it for you at your core that you know, you know, you have something to share? What is that feeling for you, right? And, is that something you want to experience on a daily basis? When you are doing the work you do, whether you're doing it with clients or without, is that what you want on a daily basis, right? Is that what you want to experience? Is that what you want to expand into? Because if that's what you want, right, let's get real clear on what it is. Let's get real clear on what you sell so that you can transform your life and transform the life of others. Because that's the business that we are in as healers. We are in the business of transformation. And if you are my people, that is where your zone of genius thrives. That's where your soul soars, right? And isn't that what we're doing? Why are we here, right? If not to let the soul serve and soar. And so, because we live on the 3D world, in the 3D plane, in the experience of an exchange with other human beings, in the experience of using money as a tool, marketing as a tool, sales as a tool. Well, let's do it. And let's do it from that place where, knowing at your deepest core that you are truly aligned with your soul's purpose. And then you really understand the power of what you sell. Sell is just a word, okay? It's just a word. And the energy we put around it is just a choice. But it is the container that allows us to do our soul's work. And I teach you how to do it for free, just like I'm doing now, and get paid, right? So then you can allow yourself to serve everyone who needs and resonates with your work. Okay? So if any of this resonates with you, DM me, let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. And what I do is I send you an application form. I ask you very specific questions to really see where you're blocked, because often we often think, oh, I don't have enough students in my class, or I'm not making enough money. There's something that we think is happening, but there's always a deeper level. And on that call, what we're going to do is we're going to start to really see where that has been coded in your nervous system, in your body, where that has been coded in your mind as a kind of like this story, and where it's been coded in your energy. Because once we start to decode that, it frees up energy to kind of to start to move towards your North Star, and we start to get more and more and more clear on what that North Star is. And as I mentioned last week, once you understand your North Star, there's no mistakes. All we do together is we stay on that path, and that's what I help you do. I just shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, collaborating so that we can move closer to our truth and stay on that path, so that we don't spiral into that overwhelm, into that false ego identity that thinks that we're not enough, we're not worthy, we don't belong, we're not perfect, we're not capable. And we actually move towards where we're going to soar. Okay, so if you would like to soar with me and get down and dirty for what it is we're doing here, then DM me, and I'm happy to gain some clarity with you and find out where you're really truly, why you're truly blocked and where you're truly blocked. Okay, so sometimes the link is in, Katie puts it in the comments, so look out for my calendar link, or simply DM me and just let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call. And that is it for me. I really hope that this created clarity for you, because I know it's one of the biggest pains for us mystical, magical people who sometimes have a hard time putting all of this in the 3D tangible world. So, love you guys very much. Thank you for being here. I want to hear you in the comments. I promise I'm going to come back and answer all your questions. See you next week. Bye, guys.